All right, this update is brought to you by AutoZone. Well, The Athletic today reported that Bob Melvin, he is going to be the manager of the San Francisco Giants in 2024. The official announcement will likely be tomorrow. Rangers beat the Astros last night in the Game 7 of the ALCS. They're headed back to the World Series for the first time since 2011. And tonight, Game 7 between the Phillies and D-backs. Winner moves on to the World Series to take on the Texas Rangers. And this update's been brought to you by AutoZone.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It is hour one of Jon Jim. We have a writing about what the Padres need with their next manager. He will join us at 3:30. Mark Zeigler, as we approach San Diego State basketball season, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. You just heard from Jim in the update, what we told you yesterday, what we started speculating on Friday, maybe even Thursday. Officially official. Bob Melvin out the door. Questions heading into the offseason, which were already significant, even more significant now. Where do the Padres go from here? I mean, think about this. You're coming off a year in which you accomplished none of your goals. Not one of them was accomplished. And very few people put it on the manager. I think there was a period of time in season where we're like, oh, they're blowing the lead with the bullpen, and he's not. This wasn't because of Bob Melvin. And now Bob Melvin, this accomplished manager with 20 years of service time in the big leagues as a manager, is out the door to San Francisco, Jim, your division rival again. It's deja vu all over again. And you're left with what? 82-80, all these questions, Juan Soto's future. Why is AJ Preller the one that's going to determine who the next manager of the Padres is? And that's where we are. I mean, that's where we are today, with nothing but pieces to pick up, with Bob Melvin out the door to San Francisco, of all places, just like Bruce Bochy did previously.
The day that the Giants fired Gabe Kapler, we were at Fair Play.
I remember it well.
And the thing that I kept repeating was, this is the worst case scenario that you cannot have happen.
Right.
You cannot have your division rival get your manager.
Yes.
You could not let that happen. And it did.
Exactly.
It did. And now you're sitting here thinking to yourself, where did this, what the hell happened? And driving over here, I honestly started laughing to myself, because whenever AJ speaks, because he's going to have to speak, he can't hide. You can't
hire a manager.
Right. You can't hide from this. I cannot wait to hear his
downplay
BS explanation of why, one, you said that Bob Melvin was returning and everything was fine, and you guys talked 5 times a day and the reports are stupid and we don't take any credence to anonymous reports. And also, two, why you let the Giants have an opportunity to interview Bob Melvin. Like, it's going to be so fascinating. And frankly, it's going to be kind of hilarious to hear AJ try to talk himself out of telling any type of truth.
Jim, I go back to the day that we were at Fair Play, to your point, when Gabe Kapler was fired, and we said, if you want to put like matters in your own hands and take it away from the Giants, then just extend Bob Melvin or make a determination. Either keep him or let him go, but don't do what you did. What you did was nothing. You didn't let him speak, and you made this assumption, well, he's got a third year on his deal.
Yeah.
And he's excited to come back. As Darnay Tripp said on Twitter earlier today, spoiler alert, he's not that excited.
You're wrong, Darnay.
Exactly. So
we love you.
I mean, they could have, this was so easy. You know how they felt about Bob Melvin based on their lack of making any decision on Bob Melvin's future. If the Padres wanted Bob Melvin, we have said this repeatedly now over the last few days. If they wanted Bob Melvin, we're the most stable franchise. right? The Peter Seidler quote, stability is what we believe in. If you wanted stability, you could have extended him. But now you've got Fernando Tatis Jr., this 24-year-old uber star with his fourth manager, Jim, as a 24-year-old. What's he going to have, 10 managers in his big league career?
I wouldn't put it past him as long as Preller's here.
So it's just, you have no stability. And we said this yesterday. The only stability you have is the roller coaster ride we've all been on for the last decade with AJ Preller. That's not stability, Jim. It's craziness the last 10 years under AJ Preller. It's up and down, up and down.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir, man.
I'm blaming you.
I blame myself too. The media's fault. Blame me, blame you, blame Bernie, blame Kevin, blame Dennis, blame Ken, blame who else? Casavell,
Andrew Baggerly, who will join us tomorrow. He broke the story. Andrew Baggerly at The Athletic will join us tomorrow on Jon and
Blame
Jim.
Marty, blame Darren.
Definitely Marty.
Blame Big Rich, TD, and Fletch.
Definitely Fletch.
Blame Brent. Who else can we blame? Oh, got to blame Jonathan as well.
Is Blake Snell playing a role in this?
He's not. I'm not going to blame Blake Snell for this one. But I'm trying to think of any other media member in this town. Blame Bryce, who will join us at the bottom of the hour. Bryce Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Blame Darnay. Who else covers this team? Yeah, I'm going to go that is my circle of blame I'm putting on this whole thing.
Right.
But seriously, it is the worst look imaginable after what was said at the end of the season, which was at the time, I think everybody that was in the know was thinking to themselves, AJ, stop. You got to be kidding me with this right now, right?
It's like he was doubling down, like, oh, this is overblown.
Yeah, like
this isn't reality.
Like everybody knew he was just not telling the truth and laughing in his face. And then it was, well, I guess they're actually gonna try and work this thing out. And the uneasy truth that Dennis Lynn referred to with Darren was, to me, just like going into a season where you have to win, coming off of this horrible season, is not something you want to hear with your manager and your GM is, hey, we're in a season where we need to win, but oh, by the way, this is an uneasy truce we have. So I can't wait to hear whatever BS, response or definition or explanation that AJ has whenever he talks, because that's what's coming. And we're now all forced to move on, which, I mean, we kind of have to. And who's going to be the next manager? And when will that manager end up getting fired again or being let go? And the cycle will continue as long as AJ Preller is around, being the GM and president of baseball operations.
Right. It's like, you can buy a Rivian. I'm going to make a Rivian analogy.
What is a Rivian?
There's a really expensive electric pickup trucks.
I've never heard of that. A Rivian?
70470, start with team, or 844-570-1360. Have you heard of a Rivian?
Am I an idiot?
Am I the only one that's seeing these like $200,000 vehicles in San Diego?
A Rivian?
Here's my analogy. Okay, Jim.
Dumb it down for me.
If you buy this $100,000 electric vehicle, but you put $50 wheels on it, like that's not a good investment. They spent $250 million on a bunch of stars without completing a roster. And you can have any manager. I'm not sympathetic to whoever manages this team next. This is not an easy job at all. I've been saying that repeatedly.
Welcome to the circus, Mike Schilt.
It's right. It's not an easy job because who's overseeing the operation? And if it's Mike Schilt, if it's Ryan Flaherty, if it's whomever, like, you've got the payroll. They're not going to have a bottom 10 payroll, even if they dummy this thing down from 250 to 200. But are they going to have a complete roster? Something they've never done under AJ Preller. And then we're all going to blame the manager because the team isn't winning, where in fact it's not the manager that determines who's on the team.
Yeah. Bob does not have, he's not blameless in this thing. Like, he definitely has blame on his hands, for sure. But I love the pie chart, right? Give me the pie chart.
What percent of the blame?
What percentage of the blame? When you look at the pie chart, if like a blue was like AJ and yellow was Bob, it's predominantly blue in my eyes.
How much is Peter?
Well, he's going to be red in this situation, and he also is in there as well. But he's more than Bob.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, I'm more sympathetic to Bob. And like, when he returns next year, you're going to be critical of Bob, Padres fans, for leaving this. And you guys have all watched it firsthand.
Yeah.
3.2 million of you were at the games this year. Aren't you sympathetic to what Bob Melvin just went through this past year? What more could Bob Melvin have done? He's not a perfect manager, but he took him to the National League Championship Series last year without Fernando Tatis Jr. and with Juan Soto for 60 games.
Okay, so today in The Athletic, Andrew Baggerly, who we'll have on tomorrow, who broke the story, this like paragraph here is so fascinating to me because Bob must have really, really hated working for AJ to go to this.
Okay.
So Andrew Bagley writes, apparently the Giants' top decision makers didn't view the disappointment in San Diego as a reflection on Melvin. The Giants have their own instability to paper over while president of baseball operations Farhan Zaidi enters the final guaranteed year of his contract. The Giants have a clubhouse culture to reconstruct after firing Gabe Kapler in the season's final weekend, citing the need for new leadership and more connection within a clubhouse that had gone stale. Bob said, I'd rather go to that than work with AJ Preller.
Yeah, but not just that. They're also saying that S show in San Diego is not because of Bob Melvin.
Right.
Like that's plain as day from Andrew Baggerly. What's going on in San Diego and that awful 2023 year is not a reflection on Bob Melvin.
Like Bob has blame in this thing, but the overall reflection, like you said, it's not like Bob Melvin didn't cause all of these problems. He might have amplified them to an extent. He might have not helped try to fix the problems, but the root of the cause of the start of the problems is AJ.
Don't buy a Rivian and then put $50 wheels on it, Jim.
What is a Rivian?
I don't know. 844-570-1360. Vito wants to weigh in on the situation right now with the Padres. Vito, you're on with Jon and Jim. Do you know what a Rivian is?
Yeah, hey, John, I'm up in the Sacramento area, and I see them a lot of.
Thank you, Vito.
Do I not pay attention?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
these things aren't cheap.
At least here. So I guess I just have a question. Like I've called in a lot and kind of beaten the dead horse about how I think AJ should go. I just want to know if you guys what else do you think needs to happen for Peter to come to his senses to finally say, that's enough, AJ, you have to go? Because to me, Bob Melvin leaving to go to San Francisco, based on the amount of talent that we have and about how he's respected in the league, it just seems to me like that's just a really bad reflection on the organization and AJ Preller. So what is it going to take for Peter to finally be like, okay, that's enough? All right, guys, that's what I got.
The $200 million question.
Yeah. I think, honestly, if it's not going to be constant dysfunction, cycling through manager after manager, the only thing I feel like is going to cause as we said yesterday, the straw that breaks the camel's back type of moment. We're like,
let me guess what you're going to say. Are you going to say his contract expires?
I don't want to say that because I hope Peter's smarter than that. I do think that's a possibility, but the main thing I hope and I'm praying is that, the thing that matters the most, which I got in arguments with people on social media today. I don't know why. The thing that matters the most is winning. If they don't win, then that's going to hopefully, I think, be the forcing of the hand moment. But I know they haven't won. So
that's the thing.
I know. I don't know, man.
Here's the thing. We said it yesterday and we've said this before. Now is the time. If you have any questions about your organization, if you're Peter Zeigler, if you're second guessing anything, you've got this free get out of jail card. Your manager just left under contract to your rival.
Yeah.
You can change everything right now. It's October, not February. Now, it's going to take a bold decision, and I don't know if Peter's willing to do that right now. He's also been going through things with his health, as the Padres have illustrated previously in a statement. But if you were ever considering changing the direction of the organization, your accomplished veteran manager that you told us 2 years ago was a difference maker, he's the best manager in baseball, yet he left you. Isn't now the time? If you're ever going to do it now. You have general managers available to you.
See, we've been talking a lot the last couple of days and weeks about, AJ and Bob and AJ. What does Peter think? I'm fascinated to know what Peter thinks of this whole situation. When he got the call or when it was relayed to him, however this went down, what was his reaction? Because we know the preference of Peter was to bring back Bob and AJ. and kind of was the parent telling his two kids fighting, like, kiss and make up before you can leave this room. And just a couple weeks later, Bob said, yeah, I'm peacing out. I can't deal with this guy anymore. And then the Padres gave him the permission. What was Peter's reaction to this whole thing? Because of what you just said, how he says the best manager and he brings the calmness and the what this team needed. And then all of a sudden you're allowing this to happen. You're allowing Bob, you're allowing AJ to make you think that, Bob was really the problem. We need to hire another manager. It's okay if he leaves to go to the Giants. That to me is kind of really important. This whole thing is what is Peter thinking now? Is he upset with Bob, or is he upset with AJ, or is he upset with nobody, or is he upset with both of them? Like, what is Peter thinking? Because he's the freaking owner of this team.
Well, remember July 1st when he spoke with Kevin Acee, his last detailed, lengthy time he was quoted.
Yeah,
publicly.
Read it. I saw you had it up.
I did, but that wasn't actually the point I'm going to make about stability. Here was the point I was going to make. The point I was going to make is that he doubled down on Preller. He didn't on Melvin. He didn't guarantee in that piece when asked
True. Yeah.
Melvin's future, but he did guarantee AJ Preller's future. And of course, he had the infamous quote as well about stability and AJ's excellence, which only looks worse with each passing day, because you can't tell me this is stable just because you've had the same general manager when everything else around him has changed. As the world moves, that's not stability just because you haven't moved. Like, everything is moving around you. You're going to have 4 managers in how many seasons?
5. So 2019, 2021, 2023, and then whenever they hire a manager coming up here.
Again, I just go back to this point. And again, I'm beating it like a dead horse. But like, if you ever thought about making the move, if you're second guessing, if you're questioning your decision to stay the course, this is the time you can get out from underneath from everything. You can completely get out from underneath of this whole thing. You can hand the keys elsewhere. Kim Ng, come on down. Skip Schumacher, you want to join? But with AJ Preller making the hire, you're ruling out like 98% of potential candidates. And that's why it's going to be either Mike Schilt or Ryan Flaherty, because nobody's going to want to go through what Bob Melvin's just gone through, or Jace Tingler or Andy Green. But you could get out from underneath all of it just by making a change at the top.
You know what I feel like right now? I feel like, welcome to the dark side, John.
I know, because
you're almost more harsh on Preller than I am right now.
Because this is the time. It's
welcome.
It's such an indictment on AJ. This is such an indictment on AJ Preller.
Oh, I know.
To speak 2 weeks ago and be like, Bob's going to be back, and then 2 weeks later he's not, and Padres fans are left to question what's next.
Yeah, all Padres fans are left on an island wondering what the hell happened, with no explanation at all until whenever he speaks, and it better be quickly too. Once the Giants officially hire Bob tomorrow, and I'm sure they'll have a press conference on Thursday, it would be so fascinating to have a press conference on Thursday in the morning with Bob in San Francisco, followed up by a press conference here in San Diego, or probably a Zoom, because, I mean, they love Zooms here, with AJ giving in a BS explanation on why Bob got to leave the organization and get an interview with the Giants.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to speak when Melvin leaves. I think the next time he speaks is probably when he makes a hire. Like, does he owe an explanation here locally?
Yeah.
Melvin's going to speak for himself, and they're going to say, hey, why'd you leave? You had a year in your deal, and he's going to give his explanation. Mm-hmm. Are the Padres then going to counter that explanation with their own press conference? I don't know.
That's going to be the most telling of this whole thing, is whenever they speak, what's said, what's released, the press releases, the answers, that is going to be so fascinating to listen to, because Preller's not good when making up stuff. Like, he can't tell the truth. And so when he can't tell the truth, he fumbles over his own words, and he goes on a path of like, wait, AJ, this is a Wendy's. Like, I asked you a totally different question.
This is a Wendy's.
Like what are you talking about right now? And you're going to know when he speaks. I would hope that he has something either prepared, or they coach him up on what to say when asked. They better go through every single question, because they're going to be asked, and he's going to be asked. And if he doesn't come with a good enough answer, people are going to be like, dude, you're giving me reasons even more to not trust you. I don't trust you. I think you're a horrible GM. You don't win. You drive people out of town. You go through managers left and right. What are we doing here?
Good luck to the next manager who's going to be managing in a year where if you don't win, everything should change.
Yeah.
And that should have already happened. So the next manager is managing with the expectations of win or else.
Yep.
It should have been that way in 2023. It's absolutely got to be that way, you would think.
Well, they loved
in
it.
2024.
It sounds like they loved that Melvin left. They were just like, oh God, I can't believe I'm so happy Melvin's gone. By they, I mean Preller and his like circle. I mean, imagine that.
Why?
So, I know. Why?
I don't. Okay, so you don't see eye to eye. Yeah, but that alone is so you need to have someone that's going to say yes to you. You need to have a yes man in the clubhouse, which got them in their own issues with Jace Tingler, with the clubhouse being an extension of the front office. Therefore, the players having issue with that in 2021.
And speaking to the yes man thing here, before we get to Bryce, do you guys remember why Mike Schilt was fired in St. Louis? Or not the reason why, but I guess part of the reason why.
Philosophical differences.
A guy that's not going to take, he's going to voice his own opinion. He's not going to be a yes man. He's going to push back. Yeah, that's the perfect guy to have here as a manager. Think about that. You're putting a guy in position, which I think Mike Schilt is the leading candidate. And we'll talk about this more. You're going to put a guy who is not a yes man, who pushes back, who got fired from his last job for philosophical differences, with a guy who has a problem with not being a yes man and pushing back and having problems with philosophical differences. Yeah, that's going to work out great. It could, but good luck.
Bryce Miller has written about this. Padres are picking a new manager and experience matters. Bryce Miller, columnist for the UT, his thoughts on what's transpired here with Melvin to the Bay, and who's next? Is it Mike Schilt? Is it Ryan Flaherty? Is it someone else? Bryce Miller from the UT will join us next on Jon and Jim. All right, Bryce Miller, columnist at the Union Tribune. If the Padres are picking a new manager, and by the way, they are, experience matters. Where do the Padres turn? Bryce Miller joins us next.
All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. The breaking news of the day, according to The Athletic, Bob Melvin has accepted and will be the new manager of the San Francisco Giants in the 2024 season, leaving the Padres with another managerial search for AJ Preller. Moving over to baseball playoffs, ALCS Game 7 last night. Rangers beat up on the Astros. They're headed back to the World Series for the first time since 2011. Tonight, Game 7 of the NLCS, Phillies and Diamondbacks. Of course, the winner there moves on to face the Rangers coming this Friday in the World Series. And NBA kicks off tonight with a doubleheader, Lakers and Nuggets. 4:30 p.m. start there, and the Warriors and Suns tips off at 7 p.m. in the Bay Area. If I can move my thing down there, check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code SPORTS, because life's more fun when you're in the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions do apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details. Shut up, John.
If I could move my thing down there. Coming up with the show today, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Vets Aid at North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. This is November 12th. Make sure you're there as Joe Walsh presents an all-star lineup with Jeff Lynn's ELO, The War on Drugs, The Flaming Lips, and special guest Steven Stills. More info and tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Keep listening for your chance to win. All right, we're going to try to connect with Bryce Miller, who has written today in the Union Tribune. If the Padres are picking a new manager, spoiler alert, they are.
Yeah.
Experience matters. It's hard to disagree with that point. They just had an experienced manager. You know what happened? They won. To some extent, they won. Under AJ Preller, in his regime, in his tenure, he was the winningest manager. Got to a National League Championship Series. Even this disappointing year, they somehow finished over 500. Not that excuses the way they performed in 2023, but
still factual, I guess.
Bryce writing today that experience is a key determining factor for the next Padres manager. Would you agree? Remember, twice AJ Preller went with the first-time manager. Only once did he go with the veteran manager.
Couldn't get it done with a first-time guy. couldn't get it done with a manager with experience. He fired Buddy Black because, he wanted his own guy.
I'm such an idiot. This
You
happened
did it
last
again, didn't
time.
you?
What did you say?
So every time we're supposed to call Bryce Miller, I go to my phone.
You give him the wrong number?
Well, I give him Miller, who's my fraternity brother in Nashville.
You're an idiot.
So he's probably really pissed. I'll text him in a minute.
Oh my goodness. Bryce,
I'm such an
our
idiot.
Bryce Miller's like, where are you guys?
This has happened twice. That's my bad.
It's okay, John. I forgive you.
Should we get Miller on?
I forgive you, John.
Do you want to get Miller, like Mike Miller, my buddy from
No, because he's
I
gonna
think
like
he was taking a nap.
yell at us and cuss at us.
taking a nap? It's 6:00 in Nashville or whatever. Talk Giants football with him. He's a big New York Giants fan. That'd be fun.
No,
Okay.
it would not.
Then
be.
let's talk to Bryce Miller then.
Let's talk to Bryce Miller about
Such
it.
an idiot. I think the last time we
Yeah.
had Bryce on, the same thing happened. I told
did.
Bryce that we were calling Mike Miller.
No, it's your fault. Take accountability, man.
Brent's like, "Are you sure that's the right number?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's the right number,
Like,
except
nope.
it's the right number for Mike Miller, who I went to college with." Bryce, I'm
Not the
such an
shooting guard
idiot.
from Florida.
This happened last time we called you, Bryce, I think, or recently. I look at my phone, I give our producer your number, but I just gave him Miller, who's my fraternity brother from college. So he's mad. Bryce, thank you for joining us. Bryce Miller, columnist for the UT, writing today, if the Padres are picking a new manager, of course, now we know they are. Experience matters. Bryce, appreciate it. What are your thoughts on what's transpired here over the last day or two and where they go from here?
Well, I'm curious to find out what Mike Miller thinks, but
I thought about having him on.
I didn't.
It wasn't a surprise that Melvin was leaving. What was probably more surprising is what everybody said 3 weeks ago, that, Preller and Melvin, that they're coming back. They're going to move forward. They're, manager now and into the future. The distraction that would have created at every turn going into next season and all the way through the season, anytime there was a little bit of choppy water, that it's hard to imagine that would have served either of them well. And by default, that wouldn't have served the Padres well. I don't know what caused them to say that. I can't imagine both would have been that completely disingenuous in the moment. Maybe it was a more of a factor of what the Giants were talking about and how they were approaching their vacancy, or maybe they were in the moment thinking that wasn't going to be possible in San Francisco. Who knows? Maybe we'll learn more later. But just the fact that, trying to imagine them working together, given all the struggles this team has had with underperformance in 2023. It just seemed like another thing on the table that the franchise didn't need. So you're looking forward, and really it's trying to gauge, how you think AJ Preller and by default Peter Seidler want to look forward. And is that experience? They've gone the first time manager route a couple of times. They went experience with Bob Melvin. So that's the question, and that's what kind of set me down the road to writing about, the differences between maybe Ryan Flaherty and Mike Schilt today.
Everybody has blame here, Bryce, but for you, who carries the most?
Yeah. Boy, that's hard to know. I think it would be. I think you would have to know more about. I'm not going to pretend to know more about what happened behind the scenes than I do. I know some, but I don't know that I fully have the picture. And some of the picture that you get is from one vantage point or the other. I guess if you had to force somebody into a blame corner, it might, as much as I hate saying this, I have a ton of respect for Peter Seidler and his investment and everything here. The question is, has he been too loyal to AJ Preller? We're talking about nearly a decade without a division champion, without a 90-win season, without minus the NLCS run, which, depending on how you want to credit that could be credited to Bob Melvin, that could be credited to Manny Machado, that could be credited to Joe Musgrove. You could parse that out in a lot of different ways. But maybe if you had to ask the deepest, most pressing question is, when is more going to be required of the general manager here in terms of finishing, winning a division, consistently being in the playoffs, making deep runs in the playoffs. Things are reasonable benchmarks in lots of cities, and at least seems longer in San Diego.
No doubt about that. Bryce Miller's with us, columnist for the Union Tribune. So, writing about experience, why is it that it appears the Padres are just looking internally? Whether it is Schilt, who's got his experience and has had success in St. Louis, even if they go young and youth movement with Ryan Flaherty, okay, that's an internal hire. Why aren't they, at least from what we're led to believe right now, opening this thing up to the masses?
I think they'll talk about people outside the organization. They may look outside the organization. I don't think anybody knows that that's definitely off the table, but all the tea leaves and the people most connected to the franchise on a day-to-day basis seem to think it's an internal focal point, for now. Some of that makes sense. I mean, there's so much change happening at you're cutting payroll maybe from 250-ish million to 200. If the loss of the regional sports network, Alley's Major League Baseball covered those losses up to, I think, 80% this year, but I don't think that continues. You didn't realize any playoff revenue. Your top stars underachieved. There's just so much that this organization needs to consider that there probably is an advantage to having somebody who doesn't start from ground zero and understands, what they're doing, from the minor league level up. And I think that's what gives Mike Schilt an advantage in his advisory role, that he's kind of worked through lots of levels of the Padres organization in a short time. But it's just one thing, it takes one factor off the table that may not have to be there. Somebody coming in and not having any understanding of where this organization's at when there's so many things to address.
Bryce, you mentioned, like, as far as the blame goes, it's hard not to look at Peter Seidler, who's the owner, who has allowed AJ Preller to do everything and fail miserably time again and time after time. But for you, like, we talked about this the other day, what do you think is going to be that moment where the moment where he realizes, okay, enough's enough? Or do you think there's not going to be a moment where he realizes it and Preller's going to be around at minimum until his next contract expires?
Well, I don't know what it feels like right now. We haven't heard much from Peter Seidler, given his health concerns. And, the overarching thing is you just hope he's doing well and heading the right direction health-wise, of course. But it's one of those things that, if this team underperforms, doesn't make the playoffs next year, that seems to be the ultimate, and especially with the new manager, that seems to be the point where a tough decision has to be made. Some people would argue it's past that point, but I don't know how a decade in you don't have that conversation about the direction you're going organizationally. But in defense of AJ Preller, a little bit, because nobody seems to go down that road.
Oh, so yes, do it.
So, I'll just try a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, think how quickly perceptions change in this game. Last year, they were in the NLCS. If this team makes the playoffs and they move along the line, maybe not making a World Series, but make a multi-round run again, all of a sudden, what are we saying about AJ Preller? 2 years in a row, things look like they're going the right direction. I mean, it just took, part of one season to completely change. I mean, perceptions change that quickly in baseball. Now, on one hand, and I just made the argument, so I'm arguing against myself, he's had plenty of time here with the Padres. They've went at this a lot of different ways. But at the same time, if things were different this year, if those stars performed, is Bob Melvin still here? Is the perception of AJ Preller different? It probably is. All of that's probably true at that point. So at the end of the day, especially when you're trying to figure out where to point a finger, it's all about winning. That's the bottom line in this business. They didn't do it this year, and I can't imagine there would be much patience for not doing it with these contracts and these stars a year from now.
Bryce, always love your perspective. Again, for our listeners, if you haven't read it today in the UT, if the Padres are picking a new manager, of course, we now know they are. Experience matters. Check it out. Really good column from Bryce today in the Union Tribune. Bryce, we always appreciate it. We look forward to doing it again throughout the course of this offseason. And please be well. Thanks for doing it.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bryce.
All right, Bryce Miller, columnist with the UT. We're going to react to what Bryce just told us. Plus, we're taking your reaction. Bob Melvin out. He's heading to San Francisco. What's next for the San Diego Padres? Plus, Mark Zeigler will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. Hey guys, it's Schaefer, and I'm going to get over to Windmill Farms tomorrow. I always like to get there during my work week. I saw their owner there last week, Trevor. Saw his mom over there as well. It's always good to connect with them. They've been in the family grocery business for decades. They love supporting local. This is your spot for your weekends as you get ready for all your tailgating and game day needs, whatever it is. It's also your spot during your work week. I've been telling you, go there for lunch, pick up a sandwich. Your 8th sandwich is free at Windmill Farms. And here's the thing, your other 7 sandwiches are affordable, and they use the best, highest quality ingredients. So pick up a sandwich card over at Windmill Farms when you're looking for lunch during your work week. Go over there. They are the college area's natural grocer. They've got you covered, whether it's the work week or the weekend, with their farm fresh produce and meats, whether it's their craft beer selection, which is truly incredible. I've been telling you about the deli, again, with that sandwich card, where you get your 8th sandwich free. They're centrally located right off Del Cerro Boulevard across the freeway from Montezuma Mesa. Windmill Farms is family owned. They've been serving San Diego for over 20 years. Here's the other thing. You don't have to live nearby to shop at Windmill Farms. You can have Windmill Farms. You can find them on Instacart and have your groceries delivered directly to your doorstep every single week. You can check out their specials at windmillfarmsmarket.com as well. So check them out. Support local, and shop this week at Windmill Farms. No, here's the thing. All right, John and Jim back with you. Jim is yelling at me because he doesn't believe who I buy my internet from. He's like, "Do you have internet?" I'm like, "Yes, I have internet like all human beings."
But I asked you, what's your company? And you go, Spectrum.
And you're like, "They don't have internet."
Like,
yes, they do.
I'm like, wait a second. Spectrum is I think it's Cox and AT&T.
What do you mean you think?
I'm looking up right now.
Spectrum has internet.
Spectrum's charter, Jim.
Yeah, Spectrum, like Google Spectrum Internet. It's because Jim's moving. Are you looking for all I know is this. Anywhere you've ever lived, your internet has flat out sucked.
So, yeah.
So go with what I have because my internet typically works.
All right, hold on.
And I think I have Spectrum Internet. And I think it's been affordable.
Okay, there it is.
So, yes, thank you. Would you like to apologize
Sorry.
for calling me an idiot?
I'm sorry.
So when are you moving?
I'm moving Saturday.
Into your own place with Aaron. How many bedrooms?
Yes, my own place with my fiance.
You've been living with roommates and guys and gals and
I know
all kinds of people.
Like, I'm moving in just with Aaron.
How many bedrooms?
2 bedroom, 1 bath. Has a front yard, has a backyard, and we're moving in there.
Second bedroom is going to be for like podcasting, streaming, YouTubing.
Oh yeah.
Get the internet. Make sure you have internet.
That's what I'm doing. What do you think? Of course I'm going to get the internet.
I don't want to hear because when you used to live in your place before Aaron,
it was a disaster.
Jim before Aaron was a disaster.
Yes.
You think the Padres have been a disaster?
Yeah.
Jim before Aaron was a disaster. He spent months without internet, essentially.
Yep.
Aaron thankfully rectified that, but I don't want to hear come next week, oh, we're not going to have internet for a month. No. Everyone in America can get internet in like a day.
That's what I'm doing.
Order the internet. Please.
I will.
All right. 70470. Start your message with team. 70470. Start it with team. Tons of people are weighing in here. Listen, Bob Melvin's coming back to San Diego for opening day.
He'll be here opening day. Yeah.
He'll be here opening day. Who knows who's with him? Blake Snell.
Shohei Ohtani.
Who knows? I mean, honestly, who even knows?
You can't think that after the disaster of a season the Giants just had, not really disaster. It was a very bad season for them. And then at the end of the year, they're dealing with clubhouse problems and maybe a little dysfunction in the front office with Farhan and not being able to sign big time free agents there. Everyone thinking that they're going to get Aaron Judge and
Carlos Correa
and that whole fiasco there. So they're on the hot seat. Like Farhan, I feel like is on the hot seat there. So getting Bob, a well-respected manager, Eric Burns, by the way, today tweeted out, best manager I've ever played for. You hear a lot of that from former players.
Yeah, you do. You hear a lot of it.
You don't think the Giants are going to go out and try to retool in a massive way this offseason?
Of course they will. I mean, he's not taking this job just to go off into the sunset. This idea that, he's running away from the pressure. No, he's not.
Stop.
No, and there's just as much pressure in Northern California as there is in Southern California. If anything, it's ratcheted up.
Yeah.
They've won 3 titles in the last 15 years. Padres have not.
Right. There is way more, I feel like, standard in the Bay Area with the Giants than there is with the Padres. The standard there is like, you see what Bruce Bochy is doing right now in Texas? Yeah, we expect you to go back to the World Series and win those titles. See those titles over there? That's what you got to do.
What an awful. I know it wasn't Preller that let Bochy walk.
I know.
But are you kidding me that Bochy leaves for San Francisco? Now Melvin does the same. And you don't think you're playing with real fire in a situation like that?
You think it now? The Giants are lucky to get. And by you, I mean Farhan, ran Bochy out of town, and now Bochy's in the World Series with the Texas Rangers. Imagine that situation there. You thought it was bad here. It looks horrible there. Farhan ran Bochy out of town, and Bochy went to Texas in his first year. He's in the World Series.
All fair and legitimate. I would say this about Bruce Bochy with San Francisco. Like, it was a great run. Nothing lasts forever. No, and it was an amazing run, and you could put that on Farhan Zaidi. I mean, that's fine. That's legitimately fair. I do understand. At the end of the day, sometimes you need to move on, even from really good, successful eras. This does happen, and congratulations to Bruce Bochy. Mm-hmm. What he's doing is incredible. And by the way, we'll see if Bob Melvin works out in San Francisco. We'll see if what AJ Preller elects to do next works out. All of it could or could not. Melvin might be the most successful hire since Bochy. It might not. Preller's next hire might be better than Melvin. It might not. That's the beauty of sports.
And Bob is going into a situation, I feel like, is perfect for him because he's not following Bochy. He's following Gabe Kapler.
There's that gap.
There's a gap there, and Kapler ended up failing. Even though he did have some success there, Kapler is viewed, I think, there as like, really, this guy? And now you're getting Bob Melvin, who is a definite upgrade over Kapler. But here, Mike Schilt, you get Mike Schilt following Bob Melvin. I don't feel like that gap is this huge wide gap between the two.
Fine.
It's
Are
fine.
you celebrate like okay when the Padres hire Mike Schilt, you're gonna be like, they did it.
No.
They got him, and he was successful in St. Louis. He really was.
But I still go back to if Preller has a hard time working with people that push back and voice their own opinions and maybe deal with problems philosophically with who they're working with. Mike Schilt had all those problems in St. Louis when he got fired.
Do we know what it was?
We don't even really
we
truly
don't
know what it
really
was.
know, and it happened like in the offseason. It did not happen the day after the season. Remember,
it was a weird
like out
firing.
of nowhere.
And then he had this weird like Zoom because it was still during it was like a pandemic time, and he has Zoom kind of not apology, but like a statement, and they started crying, and it was like, did he start? I don't even know, but it was weird.
Let's just say it. It sounds good.
Yeah, he was crying.
He was bawling. The way I remember it,
could barely get his words out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird situation. But for the Padres, now they don't have to pay a guy $4 million. Works out perfectly for them. They save a bunch of money. They're going to spin it.
Can't be the reason.
Gonna,
if that's the reason, that's crazy.
Well, it might not be it might not be the reason, but it's definitely something that they're viewing as like a positive. I feel like.
Well, the next manager is not going to make 20 grand. So, like from 4 to 2 is a savings of 2. You did this to save $2 million. Good luck.
Yeah.
On the other side, we're going to get to the wrap. Coming up at 5 p.m., Mark Zeigler will join us from the UT. In the 4 o'clock hour, we've got a pair of tickets to see the Vets Aid concert, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, November 12th. Tickets at livenation.com. Stay with us, Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. Of course, the breaking news of the day. According to The Athletic, Bob Melvin will be the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. I almost said San Diego Padres. Nope, he won't be the manager of the Padres next year. He'll be the manager of the Giants. It's expected to be officially announced tomorrow afternoon. NLCS game number 7 in Philadelphia tonight between the Phillies and the D-backs. 5:07 first pitch there. Winner will go on to face the Texas Rangers in the World Series starting on Friday. And NBA kicks off tonight. First game in about a half hour from now. Lakers take on the defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets, and the nightcap at 7 p.m. tip-off between the Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with Code Sports, because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions do apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details today.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Jon and Jim with you until 6 p.m. We've got a great giveaway for you this hour. Your chance to win tickets to a show coming up in November. It is Vets Aid, the Vets Aid concert at North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, November 12th. Tickets available at livenation.com. We'll give those away during Trainwreck Radio. Mark Zeigler from the UT will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Phillies are doing something they've never done tonight. That's play game 7.
That's wild to me.
By the way, your San Diego Padres have never done it either. In the history of the franchise, they've played decisive games. They've never played a 7th game.
Well, they've also not been in the postseason that many times.
It's still interesting. Like, you think a 7th game is going to happen a quarter of the time, a third of the time. Padres have played in decisive third games, decisive 5th game, 84 Cubs.
Yeah.
But a 7-game series, Padres have never done it. But the Phillies have been around since 1883. They've never played in a 7th game. The Diamondbacks' only other 7th game was Game 7 of the World Series they won against the Yankees, against Mariano Rivera.
One of the most iconic series
baseball
history. Yeah.
So you don't get them all the time. Now, we got one last night. It was not a good game. I think a lot of San Diegans are excited to see Bruce Bochy have the opportunity to get to another World Series.
Absolutely.
And they did so with relative ease, 11-4.
Adolis Garcia had one of the best CSs.
Dude, the guy was like cut as a 27-year-old. He was like a cash consideration guy. That's the beauty of baseball. You can be in your late 20s, just kind of cast aside, and all of a sudden a hero in the postseason.
He had 6 home runs and 15 RBIs in the ALCS.
No, was that just in the ALCS or in the postseason? He didn't have 6 home runs in the ALCS, did he? No, dude, look that up. There's no possible way. Come on. There's no way he had 6 home runs.
I gotta look at this. I gotta look at this.
RBIs in 6 consecutive games in the ALCS.
Okay.
There's no way he had 6 home runs in the ALCS.
Hold on. I'm checking right now.
Jim fact.
Okay. Let's see here. Game logs. All
right, this is great.
I'll find it. Just stall.
I will be the definitive voice of reason. He did not hit 6 home runs in the American League Championship Series.
Find this?
Mark Zeigler will join us at 5. We'll give away those tickets during Trainwreck Radio. How long does it take to look up stats? I remember my first time Baseball Reference. Let's get to it. Gosh. Are you still looking?
I can't find it.
What is wrong with you?
He has had 7 home runs this postseason.
Is that right?
20 RBIs.
Yeah, but how many in the ALCS?
Find it.
It's right here. He had 5.
Close.
1 in the wild card, 1 in the divisional, 5 in the ALCS, 20 RBIs in 12 games. Whoa. 7 homers in 12 games.
Yeah.
Wow. And he was just a castaway.
Dude,
whatever.
Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. All right. What do we got? Bro?
Sorry.
Will Bob Melvin lead the Giants to a World Series appearance before retiring?
They're going to need to do some like major upgrades there
Mhm.
to even have that team be considered to be a World Series contender. That's why that's why it's even more mind-boggling. Like he's choosing to go to a place that essentially has a worse roster and isn't as close as potentially the Padres could have been if he stayed. Unless they have like a Shohei Ohtani signing and they sign Blake Snell and they, trade for whatever. Like,
Dude, the Diamondbacks are a game away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're never as far as it seems.
I'll say no, but I think he'll be successful there.
All right, you saying no, he will not manage in a World Series with the Giants. Obviously, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
To get to one. I'll say I agree with you. I think he'll get this team. I say this. If he's there 3 years, I say he gets the postseason 2 times.
Mhm.
Getting to a World Series is tough. I do think he'll have success. Success there. Again, the standard is high with the last decade plus. But yeah, I don't think he's going to manage in a World Series in the next couple of years there. I think he will get them to the postseason multiple times.
Yeah, because he has had problems in the postseason. We saw it last year with decision making and leaving guys in too
That's
long.
true.
So he is not a perfect manager. He's just he's better than any manager that AJ Preller has ever hired. That's why
Correct.
it's just mind-boggling. But anyway, next question, Brent.
Next question.
Are the Lakers a legit contender in the West?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Lakers are going to be good this year. I think the Lakers could be a top 4 team in the West. They have real depth this season. LeBron's not going to have to play 34 minutes a night. If Anthony Davis stays healthy, which is always the if with the Lakers.
Right.
Big
If I
if.
can lift 225.
Yeah, which you can't.
Right.
But if you can get 65 games from him that are healthy and then get into the postseason, look what happened last year. He was healthy in the postseason. They were a 7 seed. They made the
Western Conference
Finals. They're a legit contender in the West. I believe so. Yeah.
Shortest odds in the West to get to an NBA Finals: Nuggets, Suns, Warriors, Lakers.
Huh?
So to your point, top 4 though.
Uh-huh.
So that would be 4. Warriors have shorter odds than the Lakers right now to win the West, behind the Suns and the Nuggets. 5th shortest odds, by the way, in the West. LA Clippers. So yeah, none of that is any of that overly surprising. You think it's a little bit of
I think the Warriors being that high.
right.
I would have put them around I would have put them below the Lakers, probably around 4th or 5th best odds.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what are their odds to win the midseason tournament?
Oh man, that's a great question.
Very good question. When's that start? Does that start like tonight? I feel like the midseason tournament
The
starts
road
tonight.
to the midseason tournament is on.
Can we broadcast live from that thing in Vegas when they get to the Final Four?
I would love that. The
If it's
Final
like
Four.
T-Wolves, Pelicans,
Warriors
Sixers,
and Clippers.
no, just random teams.
Something's got to give.
We're gonna do that. We're broadcasting live from the Sphere for that. Is that at the Sphere?
No,
Next
John.
question.
Jim, are you worried about the Niners after their second straight loss?
When a whole
Dude, I watched the
hour,
entire game because of Jim.
an hour and 12 minutes without mentioning last night's game. Pretty impressive. By
I
me.
texted Jim the entire game.
Yeah, I was like, "How fast are you going to tweet out? Hey Jim, did you
And
see
I-
the Niners lost last night?"
It took 1 second.
Yeah.
I did it with 40 seconds on the clock before they kneeled
All
out.
right, here's my quick 60-second blab on the Niners. Yes, they have problems. I think their defensive coordinator Steve Wilkes is a massive downgrade from what they've had the last couple years with Saleh and D'Amico Ryan. Massive downgrade. Their front 4 they're not getting it done. Nick Bosa got all that money. He has 2.5 sacks on the year. That's a problem.
Trade him.
And I think Brock Purdy is showing late in games when that's a little concerning to me. I thought he played a great game up until those 2 picks. And those 2 picks happened.
Mrs. Lincoln, that was the play.
That's completely fair.
The first pick he threw
Was bad. Wasn't even close.
was awful.
Yeah, it was bad.
The second I could live with.
Second,
You got to make a play.
I agree.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's a young quarterback thinking to himself, "I got to make a play down the field," instead of, "Okay, I see nothing. We got 30 seconds left. I can't throw it in triple coverage. I got to just either throw it out of bounds or whatever to live to fight another day." Brock Purdy, he played good in the game, but then the 2 interceptions happened, and you're like, that's all people are going to be talking about are the 2 interceptions.
dude.
And Kirk Cousins is the greatest quarterback ever to play football.
Yeah,
Here's
you
the
guys are
issue.
going to be a trivia question.
I know.
Kirk Cousins' only win on Monday Night Football.
I
No,
I
by the
love
way,
it.
he's like
1-9.
6-3 in his last 9 primetime games now or something.
Yeah, no, but going
not
into
Monday
last night,
night.
he was 0-9
Yeah.
on Monday night.
So Kirk Cousins last night throws for 378 yards.
Yeah, the
like
defense
that
is
should never happen with San Francisco's defense.
And they don't have.
They didn't have Justin
I
Jefferson.
know.
They're making Addison Reed, the Pitt USC kid,
Mhm.
look like I don't
Justin
know. I was
Jefferson.
trying to use Addison Reed like
They're trying to look. They look like. It looked like Justin Jefferson 2.0.
better.
Better than him.
Right. I mean,
Randy Moss, Jerry Rice,
378
and-
yards against that defense. That should not be happening.
Yeah. The main thing out of last night, even though I'm sure everybody, and I didn't listen, but I'm sure everybody's talking about Brock Purdy's he's a fraud. He's a fraud.
He's a bust.
The defense is the bigger issue there.
Vikings 7 yards per play.
That is the
Crazy.
main problem with last night's game.
Next question.
All right, guys, who do you want to be the manager for the Padres in 2024?
Who do we want?
Who do we want?
I like that.
Okay.
And not what bummer are they going to actually hire? Who do you
Right.
want them to take?
I want yeah. I would be fine with Mike Schilt. I would. There's nobody out there that I can think of that I want that's available.
Wait. So you said Schilt?
I said Schilt, yeah. I'd be fine with it. Ryan Flaherty to me would be just the biggest eye roll possible. Nothing against Ryan Flaherty, but again, another first-time manager. Give me a break. So I think Schilt is going to be that soft spot that you can go out and do without. I mean, you're going to get criticized no matter what. Like AJ is in a no-win situation here. No win. But it would be less of a hard, like the landing would be less bumpy if you go to Schilt instead of Flaherty.
Here's who I want. It's not going to happen.
Let me
It
guess.
could happen.
Let me guess.
Yeah,
Ready? Skip Schumacher.
100%.
Yeah.
And it is a complete home run that unfortunately AJ can't hit. Someone else could. If you made the wholesale change that I've been referencing,
Is Skip not back next year with the Marlins?
he's 100% back. But
Because of Kim Ng?
yeah, there's some animosity
Okay.
that's being reported. So of course he's back, but could you lure him away? Not with AJ. Could you do
No.
it with Kim Ng?
Trust me, he will never work for AJ ever again.
But could you do it with the new regime? Of course you could at least try.
Absolutely.
So for me, Skip Schumacher is the best of all worlds. Has been here. He's part of the Cardinals organization, has won in Miami.
Yeah.
So isn't the first time, right, completely green manager, even though he's relatively green, but he's already won at a high level. If you could somehow do it, for me, it would be a home run. And unfortunately, that's who I want. Unfortunately, it's probably not realistic because AJ Preller is still the general manager of the San Diego Padres. And this is why they're going to go internal, not external. They're going to be boxed out with external candidates. And there's a lot of reasons as to why. And it's either going to be Mike Schilt or Ryan Flaherty in all likelihood.
Was Mike Schilt available to hire after the 2021 season? Did he get
Correct.
fired if they? Okay,
Yeah.
so he was available.
He was fired. Like, remember, abruptly, they won
Yeah.
17 straight.
Uh-huh.
They won in the postseason around. Where did they get to in 2021?
I want to say like the DS maybe.
So, okay. So he's having, I mean, it was an amazing finish. If anyone remembers this, they went through the Padres. This is when Machado and Tatis fought
yeah.
in St. Louis. That was during this unbelievable run for the Cardinals. Mike Schilt was the leader of that team. He took them to the postseason 3 straight years, right, Jim?
Yep, one manager of the year, one of those years.
And in 2021,
they went 91 and 71 in 2021. And
yeah, I don't know what they did in the postseason.
why can't I find this? I think they lost. They went to the hold on. Cardinals.
Why does
Dude,
this always happen on
This is just
2021?
horrible.
They lost.
They defeated
to
the Cubs in the first round. Or no,
Dodgers, 3
Dodgers.
games to 1.
Okay.
Wait, no, they lost in the NL wildcard game that existed.
Oh, just one game.
Yeah, they lost.
Oh, that's
one
right.
game, 3-1.
To the
Dodgers. Yeah, 1 game to the Dodgers. The year before, was he managing when they lost to the Padres? COVID year? He was.
He was,
2020.
yeah.
They took game 1 over Paddock and then blew leads.
Yeah.
At some point, game 2 or game
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, here at Petco.
So what I was getting to after I got sidetracked there.
Yep.
If in 2021 they hired Schilt instead of Melvin, would you have like been on board with that? Would you have not? I don't think anybody would have had the same, oh my gosh, they just hired Bob Melvin. Oh my God, they just hired Mike Schilt feeling. But I think people would have been like, oh, an experienced manager, won 3 straight years in St. Louis, and they needed a guy that with experience and respect, and they got him. Do you think people would have felt the same, like okay with it in 2021?
I think it would have been like a watered down Melvin move. I think Melvin was the better hit.
Yeah.
And Melvin was universally positively received.
It was like the home run.
It really was. Like in that. And by the way, I don't think, it's going to be hard to replicate, obviously.
But maybe Mike Schilt back then was like, oh, it's a solid double off the wall.
Yes. I mean,
how it's viewed.
Yeah, it would have been viewed well. He went to the postseason 3 straight years with the Cardinals. He went to a championship series his first year, I think, 2019. So it would have been viewed well.
So when Mike Schilt eventually gets hired here, is it going to be still viewed as the same way? Like, oh, it's a solid double. Or is it going to be viewed as like, this is a disaster?
I think between. I honestly, because here's the thing. A couple of years have passed. He's been in the background here by and large.
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit of a what have you done for me lately business. You know, you don't have the credentials of Bruce Bochy. Bochy could sit out and you could hire him and be like, wow, this is a legendary figure in the game. Yeah. But Dusty Baker, he could sit out. You could hire him. Wow, you got Dusty Baker. And there's others like that. Mike Schilt, I don't think is going to come with that rep. If you've seen some of his videos, if you've seen some of his work with the Cardinals,
I've seen it, yeah.
He's a bit of a fiery guy. Yeah, and even it'll be interesting to see how it's received, to be honest with you. When I see some of the stuff he was pulling with the Cardinals, and I try to then push it over to San Diego and how that's going to be received in the clubhouse, honestly, I don't have a great feel for it, Jim. You are walking in
to the Lions Den.
Completely. I mean, as unique of a clubhouse as there is in baseball, with all these type A personalities, it's unique. And I hope whoever they hire is prepared to deal with it in 2024. And like we said earlier, you better win in 2024 because you didn't in 2023. And at some point, it's like you're gonna have a wholesale change if you don't win.
Like, think about this: the clubhouse led by Manny. 2019, they quit on their manager. 2021, they had like a revolt against the manager. In 2023, they failed their manager by completely underperforming, letting their heads get too big, and having money be a driving force in issues in the clubhouse.
So, like, good luck.
Good luck with that. The ringleader of it all has done these things. So
this is
hopefully you turn it around.
Dude, it's complex. Managing this version of the Padres with Soto in a walk year, Machado off a down year and injury, Tatis, all the complexities of position, Bogarts. It's so complex. I don't envy whoever has that job. It's like win or else. Win or else in 2024.
The dynamic of that clubhouse, it's not really changing much next year unless they get rid of Juan Soto, unless they trade Juan Soto. Then you're going to have a huge hole in that lineup, a huge hole in that clubhouse, and you're losing your best offensive player. But as far as that dynamic goes, Manny's still the ringleader. Xander is still there. Tatis is still there. You can still have Joe, and you still have Darvish and Cronenworth, maybe, unless they actually trade him, which I think they need to do. And I'm sure they're going to pick up some other pieces because they have to. They can't just go into next season with 2 starting pitchers on the roster. But as far as the like hierarchy of this clubhouse goes, it's already been set, and it's the guy that thinks culture doesn't matter. So good luck.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, hey, Mike, you could sit down with Mike, and Manny can sit down in February and you can say whatever you're going to say, but you're going to get into it.
And he's going to end up going one way or the other.
That's the thing.
So you're going to have to navigate that because Manny is, which way is the wind blowing today with Manny?
Bob Melvin gets the job. The first person he calls is Buck Showalter. That's all you need to know about Manny Machado.
Yeah.
He knew his most important job was navigating Manny.
That,
and it worked out for a year.
Is a very stressful thing for a manager when the leader of your team, the captain of your team, the highest priced player in your team, you have to talk to people how to like manage him and how to go about business with him and how to treat him. And this whole, like, that should not be the case. And yet it is. Like in San Francisco, you know who called or was on the call with Bob Melvin yesterday as far as the
Buster Posey.
Buster Posey.
Right.
They don't. This Padres team doesn't have a Buster Posey in the clubhouse, around the clubhouse, in the organization. They don't. You can think it's Manny. It's not.
I would say Joe is what I would say, but no, it's fair.
Joe's posting. Do you think Joe's really talking to anybody right now?
I would hope. Why wouldn't Joe be talking to anyone right now?
Hey, Joe, put some shoes on, buddy. Let's not get hurt again working out, all right?
All right, we're going to get your calls on the other side, 844-570-1360. By the way, if the D-backs win tonight, is Jim going to retire? Am I going to retire? Will Brent retire? Someone will retire. We'll tell you who on the other side. Plus, Mark Zeigler at 5 p.m. Stay with us. It's Jon and Jim. SJL Stevens, what's going on? Thank you so much for the very generous super. Guys, if you are here, if it's your first time here, subscribe. Year-round content for San Diego sports fans. Thank you for the super chats. It is a great way to support our work. We'll get to every super during our breaks. SJL Stevens, a loyal viewer of the wrap-up show, wants to know if we're going back to Blind Borough and Fair Play next year. Thanks for all the updates in the wrap-up show. You're the man. Thank you. To be determined, I would like to think we'll be out on the road again in 2024. We have been for the last 2 years. Too soon.
Too soon. It's a TBD on that one. But we'd love it. Fair Play and Blind Borough.
Those are the spots, man.
Those are the best spots to be for any type of game day in San Diego. Best food, drinks. It's awesome. But as of right now, it's TBD.
Yeah, TBD. I hope so, seriously, because it's fun to interact with Padres fans on the road throughout the course of the year. 2022 postseason was incredible with the Padres winning and getting to the National League Championship Series. Hold on. Stay right here. I'm going to do a tease. What's next? All right, coming up next, we're going to get your calls, 844-570-1360. Plus, are we retiring if the Diamondbacks win tonight? We're not, but somebody might be. That's next.
All right.
So,
thanks, SJL Stevens. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much for the super chat. And again, we appreciate the supers. We'll get to them during the breaks. We appreciate you guys subscribing. Please smash the like button for us as well, and we'll be back momentarily. Thanks, guys.
All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings. Of course, the news of the day. The Athletic reporting earlier this morning that Bob Melvin has accepted the managerial job for the San Francisco Giants. It will officially be announced likely tomorrow with a press conference to follow. NLCS Game 7 tonight in Philadelphia. Winner will go on to the World Series to take on the Texas Rangers starting Friday in Texas. NBA tips off tonight with the Lakers and the Nuggets. First game of a doubleheader, followed by the Warriors and the Suns. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code SPORTS, because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is all yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions do apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details.
All right, coming up, 15 minutes, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Vets Aid concert, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. This is November 12th. Tickets available at livenation.com. Jon and Jim back with you. We'll do that during Trainwreck Radio. Mark Zeigler will join us coming up at 5 p.m. I see Manny Valencia, by the way, our engineer, because we're doing a remote on Thursday, and he needs to show us something.
Oh, we just started a segment.
But we just started. Manny, has 10, 8, yeah, thank you. Manny's coming back. Thanks, Manny. The behind the scenes of radio. All right, we're going to hear from Chris Mad Dog Russo in a moment.
Yeah.
But let's go to the phones. Dave, loyal Dave, back with us on.
All right,
Jon
Dave. What do you got?
What do you got?
Well, look, man, first of all, reminder. Back when Bob was hired, Melvin, we didn't know he was available. So to try to compare, should we or shouldn't have we over him over somebody else, remember, we didn't even know at the time, which is, part of the course. Secondly, let's not forget that this was a de facto firing by the Padres, because you can rest assured with their reluctance and their silence to not extend Bob is basically your invitation that we don't want you here. He can't come back next year unless he's extended. And they didn't. And they didn't for a long time. Last, you don't know, we don't know, none of us know who in the hell is going to be involved in the hiring process, do we? I mean, everything with the Padres is nuclear secrets. We don't know who's going to be involved. We just recently learned, didn't we, that AJ did not hire Bob Melvin. It came from another source, whether it was Peter or a combination of Peter and others. But AJ was not the hiring boss, apparently. That's what we learned. So we just don't know. We don't know a lot about what goes on behind the scenes of this circus, and it's going to continue that way, unfortunately.
Dave, thank you. Appreciate it, man.
I
do
think,
we know? No, I mean, what do we know about?
I don't think
hiring?
I don't think Bob was on AJ's radar, particularly until Bob or his people or somebody reached out to the Padres like, hey, Bob's kind of interested if you guys want to talk.
Yeah, but we were there that day. I mean, AJ made no bones about it. This wasn't something like, I mean, AJ that day,
but I do
played it off as if he was a deal maker. It wasn't like, well, this is, but I mean, he was
believe AJ.
Well, yeah, I mean, he spoke pretty glowingly about it. I don't see why he would have. I mean, how could you not? Like, as in, it was not against the advice of AJ Preller to get Bob Melvin 2 years ago.
Well, I don't think AJ sat down with whoever else was in the circle and brought up you know what would be a great idea is if we went out and got Bob Melvin. Like, I think that just kind of almost fell into the lap of AJ, but kind of fell into the lap. Like, hey, by the way, we just heard that Bob is looking to get out of Oakland because he's on his last year and that thing's a disaster. It kind of shows him he has some interest in here. We should talk to him, right? Like, I feel like that's more how it went out.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think that's really a credit to anyone. Like, I like, does Peter Seidler deserve the credit for going to get Bob Melvin, or does AJ? As in the point is, I don't think Bob Melvin landed here against the wishes of AJ Preller. You were there. Nobody was thinking at the time like, oh man, there was some animosity here. They got Melvin, but
I think if it was 100% up to AJ Preller, he would not have hired Bob in the first place.
Who would he have hired?
I don't know.
Really? So you don't think he wanted Bob Melvin even 2 years ago when they said, hey, we've got the best manager in the game, and it was this, I don't know. I don't remember it like that. You think he wanted to keep Jace Tingler?
I think he wanted to keep Jace Tingler, yeah.
Well, that's all you need to know.
I think,
if he wanted to keep Jace Tingler over Bob Melvin, then maybe they should make a change.
I think part of the firing of Jace Tingler was kind of forced upon him because of the optics and the situation that, like, what happened that season. But, dude, he told Marty. Now, again, it's you never can believe anything AJ Preller says. But I do think there's some credence to saying, yeah, we want Jace Tingler to be our manager for the next 10 years. So I do believe, and I could be wrong, but I just, through the tea leaves, I believe that Jace was a little bit forced out by others, and AJ had to make that final call. But it wasn't a AJ Preller fully 100% decision to remove Jace Tingler. And I don't think it was a 100% decision, this out of world thinking out of the box moment with AJ Preller calling the Oakland A's.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back to the way it was reported 2 years ago because I don't fully recall. But I do recall AJ saying that he spoke with Bob and Bob spoke with him. I remember all of that. They talked about it. It was the right time for both of them. Like, I remember all of that.
Well, as Darren's now coined him, what is it? Back channeling Bob, as Darren now has phrased Bob Melvin. Dude, if the Mets he was looking at the Mets job back then, Bob Melvin. He was looking at the Mets and the Padres. So I don't think this was I think this was more of a fall into the lap of AJ Preller than anything.
But not against his wishes, though. I don't see that part. I don't see the against wishes part. I haven't seen that reported, like that he didn't want Melvin 2 years ago. If that's the case, that's new reporting.
Again, I think if it were 100% up to AJ Preller, one, he would have not hired Melvin, and two, I think he would have kept Jace Tingler around.
Ugh.
Also,
that makes it even. If that's accurate, that's even worse.
And again, to Dave's point about, like, this is a de facto firing, it is. They played this out of like a game of chicken, and Bob blinked. Bob said, yeah, I'm done. I can't deal with you anymore. And everybody behind closed doors that's Preller's yes men and did not like Bob or throw up the fist today. Like, yes, we won. He's gone. And they don't have to say they fired him. They say that they can spin this and spin it like, hey, Bob left under his own free will. When in reality, you know damn well that Preller did not want to have him back. But he couldn't fire him, because if he fired him, then guess what? One, you're going to have to pay him $4 million. And two, you fired another manager. Like, this season, John, they went 82 and 80, right?
Yep.
And it's like,
correct.
well, they had a winning season technically,
Mhm.
but it didn't feel like a winning season.
Yeah.
This is how the firing or the release of Bob Melvin went. They didn't really technically fire Bob, right? The press release will not say that. It will say the Giants have acquired Bob Melvin to be their next manager. But really, in reality, they really wanted to let go of Bob Melvin. They really wanted to say enough's enough, leave, but they couldn't.
Dude, The Athletic yesterday reported they thought about firing him in season.
Yeah. So believe what you want and believe the press releases if you want. But yeah, this was a de facto firing from AJ and the Padres and a game of chicken where Bob blinked first. And now they can spin this as, well, we didn't fire him. He left on his own, which is a total crock of BS to an extent.
We'll see what Bob says when he speaks to the media, whether it's tomorrow or Thursday, about spurning San Diego for San Francisco. And then we'll see the next time we hear. What?
Nothing.
I don't know.
I thought you said something else.
And spurning?
Yeah. I thought you said,
whoa,
sperming.
What is wrong with you? I have to deal with this every day, folks. Every day.
Sorry.
What? I don't even know where to go from there, other than to say, call right now if you want 2 free
Perfect
tickets
segue.
to Vets Aid concert at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, November 12th. Tickets available at livenation.com. 844-570-1360. 844-570-1360. Don't even look at me.
You want to punch me?
Mark Zeigler will join us coming up at 5 p.m. It's not even a word, by the way. So it's literally not a word.
I know you're mad. I'm stop talking. I'm done.
844-570-1360. If you want 2 free tickets to the Vets Aid concert, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, November 12th. Mark Zeigler will join us coming up at 5 p.m. If you missed our conversation with Bryce Miller earlier, you'll hear a portion of that coming up at 5:30 as well. But call right now. 2 free tickets to the Vets Aid concert, November 12th. Call right now. 844-570-1360. 844-570-1360. Next. All right, Trainwreck Radio on the other side, plus Mark Zeigler will join us at 5 p.m. Stay with us. All right, Mark Zeigler, Union Tribune. He'll join us coming up at 5 p.m. We're about 13 days out from the Aztecs opener. Cal State Fullerton, 2 weeks from yesterday. That's 13 days, Jim.
Thanks.
Yeah. So Mark Zeigler will join us coming up at 5 p.m. If you missed our conversation with Bryce Miller from earlier, be listening coming up at 5:30. We still have Jim's back page as well. We need to hear from Chris Russo. We'll do that after our conversation with Mark Zeigler. Because you got to be careful what you say on television or the radio. We've learned that before.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned it. Shohei Ohtani, what'd I say? He was like the most overrated player ever.
And then he had
didn't age well.
Like a complete game, 14 strikeouts, and the next game he had like 9 RBIs.
Right.
And 2 home runs.
And then there was an article about what I said on Yahoo Japan. So it didn't age well.
Yeah.
Then there's Jim.
Or did it? Because now he's having Tommy John surgery.
I told you.
Told you so.
I knew this would happen. What have you learned before on the radio or on YouTube? Like not to say, like, I'll get a tattoo if that type of stuff.
I think I said like I'd eat a shoe or something.
Oh,
something.
yeah, you did. You also
did.
said you delete your Twitter if like Machado hit a walk-off home run. He did like a day later.
Yeah, but that didn't count.
I know, but people called you out on it.
And I said, no, I meant this game in particular. And then the next day it's a walk-off home run. And everyone's like, delete your account, idiot. I'm like, I said it about yesterday's game, not today's game.
But it's amazing you can get yourself in these issues. Like, I don't wake up thinking I'm going to be like
a meme or like the talking point or like the main character in your story.
Yeah, exactly. But it can happen. So you'll hear from Chris Russo coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. And again, Mark Zeigler will join us in about 10 minutes. And right now, let's play.
Three questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Dave and Jeremiah. Dave, you called in first. So you have your choice of John or Jim. Who do you want to go with?
I'll take Jim.
All right, Dave.
Thanks,
and Jim.
Dave.
This isn't Dave. This is
another Dave.
Okay. Good stuff, Dave.
Jeremiah, you get John, okay?
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
He doesn't seem too happy about that, but
Seems thrilled.
it's okay. Brent, what is today's question of the day?
All right, guys, the NBA season has officially already kicked off with the Lakers and the Nuggets. Today's question, can you name anybody in the top 10 for assists per game last season? So we're looking for any player in the NBA for top 10 assists per game last season.
Oh, geez.
Hold
Hold on,
Everyone
stop.
relax.
He's like got so many.
Let's tell you the rules.
Now I do have one question, Brent. Is there a game limit on this? Because I know we had this question before and there was no game limit. Is there a game limit on assists per game?
We have to play enough games to
Yes.
qualify.
Why? Who are you thinking?
Because when we talked about postseason, it was or something along the lines, and it was like guy played in 2 games and he led the team in scoring, and it was like, wait, what?
Jim, let me help you. There's no one that played 1 game with this beautiful 26 assist night that's on the list, is my guess.
Or someone could play 30 games and had like 10 assists per game.
Brett, what are the rules? I have a headache.
Well, no, the rules are Jeremiah's up first. Jeremiah, what is your first guess? And you do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
First guess is the Joker, Jokic.
I like that.
Jokic on the list.
Boom.
Good job. Dave, you're up next. What's your first guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
I'll say LeBron.
LeBron, top 10?
LeBron James.
No. Good guess. I would have said the same thing.
Oh, my goodness.
It's not over.
I think I would have said the same thing, too. Jeremiah, you're up next. What's your second guess? And you do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
Let's go with Steph Curry.
Steph Curry? I don't know, but he's no. Oh, man. Dave, you're up next. What is your second guess? You do have your lifeline if you want to use it.
Jokic.
No, he's already been guessed.
He's already been taken.
What's that?
He's already been guessed.
Yeah.
Taken.
So,
Sorry, I couldn't hear him.
you do have a lifeline.
I'll take a lifeline.
Okay. Top 10 in assists. I'm going to go with I don't know why I'm doing this. I'll go with Luka just because of triple doubles. I'll go with Luka. Do you take it? Dave? Luka.
Yeah, Luka.
Okay, Luka it is.
Boom, Luka.
Wow.
Luka Doncic.
Luka it is.
Luka Doncic.
Are you sure that's his name or is it just Luka?
Oh, come on.
Okay, so we're tied up.
All right. Tied up going to the final round. Jeremiah, final guess. You do have your lifeline still. What do you got?
You go with Dame Lillard.
Damian Lillard.
For the lead on the list.
All right. To send this thing to overtime, Dave. What do you got? You don't have any more lifelines, so it's all up to you.
Right. Shit, can't think of his name.
Let's not curse. 5 seconds.
I don't know.
All right, that's it. Ball game. Team John, Jeremiah wins.
He also got deducted a point there as well.
Exactly, for cursing.
Yeah.
I would have said Trae Young.
You would be right.
How about that?
Good job.
That's the only person I could think of.
I would have said maybe Chris Paul.
You would also be right.
Wow.
Who's on the list?
James Harden's number 1.
Oh,
did we say that?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
No, nobody said that.
No.
There's only 2 guys averaged double digits. Trae Young and James Harden. They were 1, 2. Joker was 3. Chris Paul was 4. Ja was 5. Luka's 6. Darius Garland was 7.
Oh, Darius Garland.
Russell Westbrook was 8. Drew Holiday was 9. And Dame Lillard was 10.
Do you know what team Darius Garland's on?
Yes. I do.
What team?
Congratulations, Jeremiah. You have won a pair of tickets. I know the answer.
Who is
to
it?
Vets Aid at
just
the
wants
North
to see if
Island
you
Credit
know.
Union Amphitheater on November 12th. Make sure you're there as Joe Walsh presents an all-star lineup with Jeff Lynn's ELO, The War on Drugs, The Flaming Lips, and special guest Steven Stills. More info and tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Keep listening this week for more chances to win.
Who is the Cleveland Cavaliers?
You know, like Jeopardy, when they're like, this person like won the 1989 Cy Young. I'm like, yes, that's accurate. Like it's, yeah.
Why do they say who is or what? Like, you know,
Like,
Because it's Jeopardy.
It's
It has to be
Jeopardy.
in the form of a question.
Are you a Jeopardy guy?
no.
Are
But my
you a Wheel of
roommates are big
Fortune
Jeop-
guy?
No, I'm
No,
not.
I suck at Wheel of Fortune. I'm okay at Jeopardy, but I suck at Wheel of Fortune.
Well, why can't we just say instead of who is this person, just say, is it this person?
But that would be like a multiple choice.
Is it Ja Morant? And if they say nope or
Jim.
yes,
The game show has worked out perfectly for 40 years.
I know. I'm just trying
It's
to
created ratings and excitement
Trying
for
to
listeners
reinvent
all
the
across the nation.
reinvent the wheel.
They already have. Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy are fine.
Do you think I'd make a good Wheel of Fortune host? or Jeopardy
No,
host?
because you can't like spell. So no, not at all. All right, Mark Zeigler or read. You have to know how to spell and read.
Damn it!
Are there any A's? Like you have no clue.
I'm like, huh? What?
Mark Zeigler from the UT will kick off hour
I can't
3.
spell. So
That's-
it's the host of Jeopardy and
Gosh.
Wheel of Fortune.
Mark Zeigler next. Stay with us, please. This isn't over the air, is it? Thank you, Brian. Murray, my man, thank you so much for the generous super chat. Guys, if you're here, please subscribe. If you're here, thank you for the supers. We get to all of them during the breaks. Murray says Jim fact or fact Jim. San Francisco has no wins in Minnesota since 1992. Sorry. How many times have they played there?
I think like 13.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And they haven't won it in 13 tries?
No. Or that game, it was like they're playing against Brett Favre in his first year in Minnesota, and he won on a final play, and it was like the greatest play ever. You don't remember that?
No.
Okay.
So
Thanks for the super chat, Murray.
No. You can't get out of it that easily. Are the Niners like are they going to be like a top 2 seed in the NFC?
They have problems.
They have problems. Niners have they're kicking. Kicking is a problem.
They didn't cost them the game yesterday. The guy hit a 55-yarder. There's only been 12 field goals of 55 yards or plus in Niners history. And Jake Moody has 2 of them now this year.
Jim facts.
Not like a real fact, though.
That's a Jim fact.
Jim fact is like telling you something like, oh, the Niners lost last night. That's Jim fact.
True.
This is more like a sophisticated.
Well, let me guess. The other ones are all Robbie Gould.
Actually not.
Really?
Yeah.
Great fact.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Murray. If you guys want to support, click the $ below the chat box. Please subscribe if you're here, and we will be back in a moment.
All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings. News of the day. Giants, they're going to hire Bob Melvin to be their next manager in 2024. The official announcement is expected to happen tomorrow. NLCS Game 7. Moments away from first pitch in Philadelphia. Winner will move on to the World Series this Friday in Texas to take on the Rangers. NBA tip-off tonight, Lakers and Nuggets. First game of a doubleheader. Right now, the Nuggets lead the Lakers 34-20 at the end of the first quarter. The nightcap is the Warriors and the Suns in the Bay Area. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code SPORTS, because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions do apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details today.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Final hour of Jon and Jim. Always good to catch up with Mark Zeigler from the UT. We're getting closer to San Diego State's 2023-24 season, officially underway with a regular season opener 2 weeks from yesterday at Viejas Arena. Mark's been doing a lot of writing, as he always does, covering the beat for San Diego State. Writing something really fascinating today in the UT about the role NIL is playing right now in college athletics, and specifically what it means for San Diego State. He's got Brian Dutcher quoted as saying, we have to raise NIL money if we're going to stay relevant in college basketball. So Mark back with us here on Jon and Jim. Mark, we appreciate it. For those that aren't paying attention to this NIL landscape, what is going on out there, and how does it relate to San Diego State and its future?
You know, it's interesting, that you have to ask that question. And I think that's part of the issue, is that people are not paying attention to this.
Right.
And, people are waking up right now going, what's wrong with our football team? And, it's the easy target is to blame coaches, but, the real story is they don't have any NIL, and they're losing players left and right to power conference schools, and they're not getting in the transfers that they normally were getting because they're also going to power conference schools. And the talent level drops, and you could see a very similar thing happen to the basketball team next year. And what's happened is NIL, which is name, image, and likeness. The idea behind it was allowing players to monetize it. So if you're really popular on a team, you could go to a local car dealership and endorse the car dealership and make $5,000 or $10,000 on the side. Well, everyone around the sport knew that was never going to happen. And what was really going to happen, it was just going to turn into above the table payments instead of the under the table payments that have been going on in college basketball and college football for decades. And that's exactly what it's become. It's become an recruiting enticement, and particularly for transfers in the transfer portal. And San Diego State is behind. And if they don't catch up, it doesn't mean you're going to have a bad team. It just makes it very, very difficult. The pool dramatically. I mean, really dramatically, if you don't have NIL. And if you put yourself in the shoes of a player, and this happened to a player who was very interested in coming to San Diego State over the summer, and the NIL was about $25,000 a player per year at that point. And this player got offered, according to him and his people, $450,000. Now, does he actually get it? We don't know. But $450,000, and you're a 22-year-old guy, and you're probably not going to play NBA basketball. What are you going to do? You're going to take the 450, and that's what's happening.
So, going forward, what do they need to do to make sure this doesn't affect them in a huge way, where they're almost looking at recruiting and NIL is kind of like, well, we're falling behind here. So what do they need to do here, Mark, in the future?
Well, what simply needs to happen is they need to get, and this is what the NIL collective has said, is that we need to get more money to remain competitive. And they're not saying that they need to be able to compete dollar for dollar because they feel like, and Brian Dutcher said that San Diego State has a lot to offer in the program. Obviously, just went and played in the national championship game. It's a great practice facility, has an incredible fan base. It plays in the 12,000 seat arena that's sold out almost every night. One of the best student sections in the country. You're in the metropolitan media area, and there's only one pro team, a major pro team, and you have a huge following. It's a great university. It's in a great place to live. All those things they feel like can help them grab a player, but they need to be competitive to a certain level, and that's kind of what they're saying. So they need more money to get to that competitive level because right now they're not competitive with a lot of these top programs.
It's interesting. We talked to you about this before, Mark. It's like some of the successes historically in the program under Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher have been via transfer, whether it was the portal era or not. It's like this yin yang thing. It's almost like they're having more successes right now via the prep route, right? They've been able to land verbally some top 100 commits here in recent days. Is that because when you go the prep route, the NIL money isn't as much of a component as those that have been in college basketball and are more sought after 2, 3, 4 years?
Absolutely, and you start to see this transition, and whether it's intentional or not, whether it's just by necessity, and that's just the way the market is going. There is a lot of value in prep players because people aren't going to shell out $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 for a guy who may or may not play immediately and has no allegiance to your school after that first year and has a free transfer in his back pocket. And so the game has become so, probably because of COVID years also and the transfer portal and the ability for people to transfer. The best teams are seeing over and over and over. You saw San Diego State last year, 9-man rotation, juniors, seniors, fifth-year senior, and a sixth-year senior in that rotation. No freshmen or sophomores. And so there is value, and San Diego State's done a really good job in sort of the futures market. But the problem is it's the known versus the unknown. And so in a transfer player, you can watch every possession that player has played his entire career in a click of a mouse, and you can talk to his coaches. You know exactly what you're getting. High school player, you just don't know how that development's going to go, and it's an inexact science, and so there's much more risk. And so you can still build a program with younger players, but it's really, really hard. And you also risk losing them as well if they get good and they jump to more NIL. So it's just changed the landscape for schools like San Diego State dramatically.
Mark, you wrote about the scrimmage that San Diego State had between Arizona State. Said they lost. You said you lost 72-68. They were down by 20 at halftime. They had a really good second half. What did you see in particular in the scrimmage?
Well, I didn't get to see anything because they don't let media in, but I do get to talk to the head coach about it and the assistants and other people who were there. And from what I can gather is there was some good and there was some bad. I mean, obviously falling behind by 20 in the first half at home. I mean, they didn't have their own crowd and their band and their cheerleaders and all that, but still, it was their home arena. They didn't have to travel, and familiar sightlines and all that. It's not good, but the response was really promising. They dialed up their defense. They became really aggressive, and in fact, it got to the point where they were so good on defense. That's the only way that Arizona State won the game, from what I understand, is that they were too aggressive and they fouled them. Mm-hmm. There was like 5 or 6 possessions down the stretch where Arizona State just scored on free throws from fouls. And so it's almost and dial it back than the other way around. And so I think they were really encouraged by that. They got better offensively in the second half. I think it felt like in the end they were probably the better team. But, you lose a scrimmage, it keeps your players focused. It keeps them hungry. And, they used the same formula last year against UCLA. And we know how that worked out. The UCLA game, they were down 18-2, came back, lost a close game, and then they started this season, and the rest is history.
Any update on Darion Trammell? Because I know he didn't play in this game. Any update there?
Yeah, it's starting to become a little concerning in that he's missed 2 weeks now. And he doesn't look to me like he's close to returning to practice in, full contact, anytime soon. I think now it's a race to get him ready for the November 6th opener, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. So 13 days. It's a shoulder irritation. Is what it's been described to me. It's something that he's dealt with his career from a old shoulder injury. It just flares up now and then, and they're trying to get it under control and taking their time instead of just trying to patch it up and play through it like you would during the season. So that part is good, and he is getting better. He said the other day, he told me, he goes, "I'm getting better."
That's good.
But how much better, we'll see. And he's out of shape. He hasn't been able to run. Hasn't really been able to do much of anything other than sit on the exercise cycle, and that doesn't really simulate what game action's like. So, I think it's becoming a little bit of concern because I'm not sure they're going to have as much depth this year. I know they're not going to have as much depth as they did last year. And so when you lose a key piece like that, it hurts.
Mark Zeigler from the UT is with us. So Mark, obviously, you've been covering San Diego State basketball for a long time. You cover local soccer as well. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the way the launch of San Diego FC has gone. You've written extensively about it. You've written about how the name and image and crest were leaked a day early. I'm sure that wasn't something that was thrilling from the organization perspective from San Diego FC. How has this organization been received, and what do you make of even something like that where that leaks a day beforehand, which I'm sure didn't please people with the club?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because they planned for this for weeks. They kept the logo under wraps, and they had this big party plan, and they were planning for it, and they were going to unveil the logo, and they had all these plans to do it, and then it leaked, the day before, and in 20 minutes, it's everywhere, and everyone's seen it.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's funny is I went to that launch party, and it didn't matter. It was so,
Right.
It was, we think in the media, oh my God, that's just the worst thing that could ever happen. But people didn't care. They were lined up around the entire Snapdragon Stadium waiting to get in. There were like between 5,000 and 8,000 people there. It was incredibly festive. They had music, they had dancing, they had speeches, they had food trucks, they had interactive games, and people were having a great time. And it actually allowed the club, instead of waiting until it started at 6, they were going to make the announcement between 7:30 and 8, and then sell merchandise. It allowed them just to open the merch tent, let people go out at 6 and not have huge lines. And so people were happy about that. And so it was funny how it worked out. And I think in the end, it was a tremendous success. And so sometimes these things that seem awful turn out to be okay. And maybe someone in the next go around will leak it on purpose.
Yeah. And finally, for me, and a lot of backlash on social media and internet and wherever else you want to go about the logo and the design and all of that. Has the club been receptive to that, or do they feel like, that's not a big deal over time? People won't care.
Yeah, I think of the latter. I remember when the Loyal launched their logo, the reaction was the same. People made fun of it. It's new, it's different. What I think people don't realize about logos or crest is they're really small. They're just a little crest up on over your heart on a jersey. And what people really look at is the jersey itself, the colors, the design, the piping, all those things. And so I think when you see the full jersey, and they're not going to probably unveil jerseys, I think, until next summer. Until you see the jersey, I think that will kind of melt in the background. And I also think it will grow on people because you have a club attached to it, it plays games, it has an identity, and that identity gets attached to it. So I think some of that will dissipate. Maybe not everybody will love it, but the Loyal logo now is almost universally loved, even though Loyal no longer exists. So I think they understand that, and they'll just kind of weather the storm and see how people feel a year from now.
I just want to ask this because you just put it into my mind. Just real quick, why wouldn't they? This is just me speaking out of turn. Why wouldn't they just adapt the Loyal name, image, likeness to this club? What's the reason why they would do that or can't do that?
No, they could. They'd have to purchase it, but I think they just felt like this is a different entity. It's a completely different level of soccer. It's a different level of investment. And I think they just wanted something new and fresh and to brand all aspects of the club in the way they want to. They have two very unique owners in the Sycuan tribe, and Egyptian billionaire, and the right Stream Academy. I think all those components make it a really, beyond just a new club, a unique MLS club, different than every other MLS club, really. And so I think they just wanted to brand it completely different. I understand that. I get that.
Yep.
It's pretty standard. It's sad to see something that, was a pretty cool design and a pretty cool club go away. But that's just simple economics, and that's the capitalistic society we live in.
No doubt. Mark, always appreciate it. Great content and coverage in the UT for San Diego State basketball perspective, San Diego FC, and more as well. So thanks for doing it today, Mark.
My pleasure. Talk to you guys.
All right, Mark Zeigler from the UT. Game 7, by the way, is underway. Arizona has scored in the top of the first inning in Philadelphia. They lead 1-0. Winner, World Series. It's a must-win, you could say, for both Arizona and Philadelphia.
Jim fact.
Tonight. And on this day of Game 7 in the National League, you have Bob Melvin departing San Diego for San Francisco. By the way, Chris Russo's got to be sweating bullets right now.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Chris Russo, what are you
Dog,
doing?
heading into Game 6 and 7, had this to say on High Heat, right? MLB Network?
I think on his Sirius XM show.
Whatever.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
on his
Chris
show.
Russo.
To make a long story short, I've been wrong in Arizona from day one. I'm stunned to beat Milwaukee. I thought they'd get swept by the Dodgers. I never thought they'd even go back to Philly for a Game 6. I'll try it one more time. I would not be stunned if they won tonight. I would be floored. And I'll say this right now. I'll say this right now. And Bob Raceman, write it down. If they win the next 2 days, they win the next 2 games, and win this series in 7 games, if they win, I will retire on the spot.
Uh-oh.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
you need to
sure
come from
you
behind. You need to come from behind win tonight now because
there's
the Phillies are trailing.
Still 8 innings left, John.
9 for
Actually,
the
9 for the
Phillies,
Phillies.
actually, yeah.
9 for the
Look,
Phillies.
he's going to retire just like Mel Kiper was going to retire if Jimmy Clausen was a bust.
Everyone, none of this has any teeth to it.
No, because, hey, Chris, you make like $5 million a year. You're not walking away from that.
Yeah, he might make more than that.
You probably
With
might.
Sirius, MLB Network, and 1 day on ESPN per week.
I think 2 days.
So he could be making more than that.
You're right.
He's like a top 10 media guy.
I know.
Remarkably.
Yeah.
He's in that
His
threshold, that realm.
Yeah. People get mad at me for yelling all the time.
They do.
Guy, his whole shtick is yelling. And look where he's got. Where he's at.
You should do more of it, maybe.
Nah, I'm okay.
All right. Bob Melvin out. When do we hear from Melvin himself? Either tomorrow or Thursday. Because the World Series starts Friday.
My guess is tomorrow in the morning, you're going to get an official announcement from the Giants saying that we have acquired Bob Melvin from the Padres to be our next manager. Then shortly after, you're going to get a potential statement maybe from the Padres. Thursday will be, I think, the press conference for the Giants for Bob Melvin. And then because the World Series starts Friday, my guess is the day after the World Series, we get the announcement that the Padres have hired Mike Schilt. Could be wrong. Could be wrong on the timing of it all, but
I hope not. I hope they conduct
like
interviews.
I think that's the. I think that's like the course of action here that will happen.
I don't. I think they'll conduct. I think they'll do interviews.
Interviews.
Yeah. So, but that would take time. I mean, even if they're in bunny quotes.
But you also do you feel that they can't go too long without having another manager in place?
Not really. What does the manager do in November?
Well, I think, look,
December.
You just lost your manager because he can't work with the GM, and you're sitting around with no manager for how long? I get it. I understand your point.
Yeah, manager. Off season for managers.
But if Preller sits, because he's not talking to, he's not answering questions from the media until the press conference with the new manager, right?
I wouldn't think so.
So imagine if they don't hire a manager for 2.5 weeks. That's silence from the organization for 2.5 weeks. That can't happen.
Like you said, you'll get something that says the Padres have allowed the Giants the opportunity to
acquire Bob.
Yeah, and we've acquired.
It'll be
this player as a result.
very weird.
Yeah, but no, that's a good point. I mean, they're certainly not going to hire a manager before the end of the World Series. I wouldn't think.
So when's
like
the
during
final
the
game
World
of the World
Series? It should be all like blackout.
It is
even
blackout.
off days.
It is blackout on off days.
So it starts Friday. It starts Friday.
And it goes till when?
Till the completion of the World Series.
Yeah, I know, but like, what's Game 7?
I don't know. 10 days later, 9 days later, right? Couple off days for travel. And then are
Game
they
7's on November 4th.
November 4th?
Yeah.
Wow. That's late, isn't it?
Kinda.
I mean, they're moving it up next year because the opening day is March 28th next year.
Most World Series now end like the beginning of November.
Yeah, maybe like November 1st, November 4th. That's crazy.
Look, I think that the Padres have to act quickly here whenever Bob is officially announced with the Giants, because Bob's going to speak first. Like Bob is going to be the first person, I feel like, to talk first. And you have to. I don't think Bob's going to go out there and just torch this franchise and torch Preller because he's professional like that. But still, he's going to be asked these questions. And you cannot, and by you, I mean AJ, you cannot just sit around and not talk to the media and answer questions for a couple weeks.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
It's a very hard-hitting question.
Give it to me.
Why not? There's no recruiting going on.
Why not?
Why not? If they hired someone November 17th or November 4th,
AJ could not look more worse in the situation. So what's just like what's being silent going to do to his reputation now with fans and around baseball? Not really much. It's not going to hurt even more.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to make a hire.
He is as far in the gutter as you possibly could get as far as the public opinion goes for,
like Gallup polls or something.
Yeah. Like, hey, how many people
what's your view on AJ Preller? Do you view
Yeah.
him positively or negatively? That would be a really interesting poll in San Diego.
Yeah, his polls are down.
Probably, yeah.
Probably as low as approval rating you could possibly have.
Is it going to shoot back up when he hires Mike Schilt?
No, but my point is like you said, not talking for 2.5 weeks. Yeah, we'll rip him. Everybody will rip him, and he'll get destroyed. But it's not going to hurt his approval rate. It's not going to like change anything. Like it's already as low as it possibly can get right now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe to your point, I mean, maybe you can hire someone as soon as the day after the World Series because maybe you conduct interviews during the World Series.
Oh, you can absolutely. You can't just not work during the World Series. You can work absolutely, but you can't announce things and have press conferences because baseball wants the World Series to be the number one thing that's talked about.
Yeah, which makes sense. Which does make sense. All right. If you missed it earlier, Bryce Miller on what's next now for the Padres and why they should go experience first when it comes to their next manager. Plus, Jim's back page is still ahead. Stay with us here on Jon and Jim.
All right, coming up next, our conversation with Bryce Miller. If you missed that on Bob Melvin's departure to San Francisco, you'll hear that coming up next. All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings Fantasy Sports NLCS game number 7. Winner moves on to take on the Rangers in the World Series starting on Friday night in Texas. The D-backs have a 1-0 lead over the Phillies, top of the second inning there. NBA season has tipped off tonight. Doubleheader. We have the Nuggets taking on the Lakers right now with 2 minutes left in the first half. Nuggets all over the Lakers, 60-48. Final game of the doubleheader, Warriors and Suns, tips off at 7 p.m. tonight. And of course, the news of the day, Bob Melvin is now going to be the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. It's expected to be officially announced by the Giants tomorrow. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code SPORTS, because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions do apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details today. All right, John's making a habit of doing this. He has now left again. He's quit on you guys. He pulled the Bob Melvin.
He's taking load management days.
He is. He is the ultimate load management guy. The other day it was, I don't feel good. I got to go to an urgent care. Today it's, I have to go speak somewhere for something and whatever. And so John is gone. And that's fine. We don't need him, Brent. But if you missed earlier today, Bryce Miller of the UT, he joined us, of course, to talk about what everybody's talking about today. And that's Bob Melvin will be the next manager of the San Francisco Giants. If you missed that conversation, here's us with Bryce.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a surprise that Melvin was leaving. What was probably more surprising is what everybody said 3 weeks ago, that, Preller and Melvin, they're coming back. They're going to move forward. They're, manager now and into the future. The distraction that would have created at every turn going into next season and all the way through the season, anytime there was a little bit of choppy water, it's hard to imagine that would have served either of them well. And by default, that wouldn't have served the Padres well. So, I don't know what caused them to say that. I can't imagine both would have been that completely disingenuous in the moment. Maybe it was maybe it was more of a factor of what the Giants were talking about and how they were approaching their vacancy, or maybe they were in the moment thinking that wasn't going to be possible in San Francisco. Who knows? Maybe we'll learn more later. But just the fact that trying to imagine them working together, given all the struggles this team has had with underperformance in 2023, it just seemed like another thing on the table that the franchise didn't need. So you're looking forward, and really it's trying to gauge, how you think AJ Preller and by default Peter Seidler want to look forward. And is that experience? They've gone the first time manager route a couple of times. They went experience with Bob Melvin. So that's the question, and that's what kind of set me down the road to writing about, the differences between maybe Ryan Flaherty and Mike Schilt today.
Everybody has blame here, Bryce, but for you, who carries the most?
Yeah. Boy, that's hard to know. I think it would be. I think you would have to know more about. I'm not going to pretend to know more about what happened behind the scenes than I do. I know some, but I don't know that I fully have the picture. And some of the picture that you get is from one vantage point or the other. I guess if you had to force somebody into a blame corner, it might, as much as I hate saying this, I have a ton of respect for Peter Seidler and his investment and everything here. The question is, has he been too loyal to AJ Preller? We're talking about nearly a decade without a division champion, without a 90-win season, without minus the NLCS run, which, depending on how you want to credit that could be credited to Bob Melvin, that could be credited to Manny Machado, that could be credited to Joe Musgrove. You could parse that out in a lot of different ways. But maybe if you had to ask the deepest, most pressing question is, when is more going to be required of the general manager here in terms of finishing, winning a division, consistently being in the playoffs, making deep runs in the playoffs, being a 90-win team? Those sorts of things are reasonable benchmarks in lots of cities, and the leash seems longer in San Diego.
No doubt about that. Bryce Miller's with us, columnist for the Union Tribune. So, writing about experience, why is it that it appears the Padres are just looking internally? Whether it is Schilt, who's got his experience and has had success in St. Louis, even if they go young and youth movement with a Ryan Flaherty, okay, that's an internal hire. Why aren't they, at least from what we're led to believe right now, opening this thing up to the masses?
Well, I think they'll talk about people outside the organization. They may look outside the organization. I don't think anybody knows that that's definitely off the table, but all the tea leaves and the people most connected to the franchise on a day-to-day basis seem to think it's an internal focal point, for now. Some of that makes sense. I mean, there's so much change happening at the, you're cutting payroll maybe from 250-ish million to 200. The loss of the regional sports network with Bally's, Major League Baseball covered those losses up to, I think, 80% this year, but I don't think that continues. You didn't realize any playoff revenue. Your top stars underachieved. There's just so much that this organization needs to consider, that there probably is an advantage to having somebody who doesn't start from ground zero and understands, what they're doing, from the minor league level up. And I think that's what gives Mike Schilt an advantage in his advisory role, that he's kind of worked through lots of levels of the Padres organization in a short time. But it's just one thing, it takes one factor off the table that may not have to be there. Somebody coming in and not having any understanding of where this organization's at when there's so many things to address.
Bryce, you mentioned, like, as far as the blame goes, it's hard not to look at Peter Seidler, who's the owner, who has allowed AJ Preller to do everything and fail miserably time and time again and time after time. But for you, like, we talked about this the other day. What do you think is going to be that moment where the moment where he realizes, okay, enough's enough? Or do you think there's not going to be a moment where he realizes it and Preller's going to be around at minimum until his next contract expires?
Well, I don't know what it feels like right now. We haven't heard much
Right.
from Peter Seidler, given his health concerns, and the overarching thing is you just hope he's doing well and heading the right direction health wise, of course. But it's one of those things that if this team underperforms, doesn't make the playoffs next year, that seems to be the ultimate, and especially with the new manager. That seems to be the point where a tough decision has to be made. Some people would argue it's past that point, but I don't know how a decade in you don't have that conversation about the direction you're going organizationally. But in defense of AJ Preller a little bit, because nobody seems to go down that road.
Oh, yes, do it.
So, I'll just try a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, think how quickly perceptions change in this game. Last year, they were in the NLCS. If this team makes the playoffs and they move along the line, maybe not making a World Series, but make a multi-round run again, all of a sudden, what are we saying about AJ Preller? 2 years in a row, things look like they're going the right direction. I mean, it just took, part of one season to completely change. I mean, perceptions change that quickly in baseball. Now, on one hand, and I just made the argument, so I'm arguing against myself, he's had plenty of time here with the Padres. They've went at this a lot of different ways. But at the same time, if things were different this year, if those stars performed, is Bob Melvin still here? Is the perception of AJ Preller different? It probably is. All of that's probably true at that point. So at the end of the day, especially when you're trying to figure out where to point a finger, it's all about winning. That's the bottom line in this business. They didn't do it this year, and I can't imagine there would be much patience for not doing it with these contracts and these stars a year from now.
Bryce, always love your perspective. Again, for our listeners, if you haven't read it today in the UT, if the Padres are picking a new manager, of course, we now know they are. Experience matters. Check it out. Really good column from Bryce today in the Union Tribune. Bryce, we always appreciate it. We look forward to doing it again throughout the course of this offseason, and please be well. Thanks for doing it.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right, update in the NLCS game number 7 between the Phillies and D-backs. Phillies have just hit a home run to tie it up at 1 apiece. Bottom of the second inning there. Of course, Lakers and Nuggets tipping off the NBA season. Lakers, they are losing to the Nuggets at halftime, 63-54. Coming up next, my back page right here. All right, coming up next, we'll have an update on the NLCS game number 7 and, of course, my back page. All right, we are now tied in game 7. Phillies and D-backs. Phillies just hit a home run, top of the 3rd inning there, tied at 1 apiece. Of course, Jim Fax, the winner moves on to the World Series this Friday, starting in Arlington, Texas versus
the Rangers.
the
Don't
Rangers.
just play nobody.
They just go out in there, play like a inter-squad
scrimmage
game. Yeah, inter-squad game. Rangers will win no matter what. Are you rooting for anybody, Brent, or do you care? Like, who do you want to see win?
I don't really want the Rangers to win because of CJ Choppy and his stupid song.
Dude, I know.
But my other team, I don't like Dusty Baker, so I didn't want the Giants to win, or not the Giants. That's old Dusty Baker, but I didn't want the Astros to win either. So they're out. So I don't really care as long as you get good games.
Yeah, I think.
I don't want a whole World Series that is a repeat of last night's Game 7, where it's 11-3. I don't want that for 4 games or however many.
I think the general consensus would be Phillies Rangers.
I could live with Phillies because I liked Kyle Schwarber.
Schwarber.
When he played for the Cubs, and I think they probably would have kept him if we had DH back then because we just didn't want to play him in the field.
Yeah. Okay, so we're still tied at 1. D-backs there's nobody on in the top of the 3rd inning, but yeah, this is going to be hopefully a good game. Hopefully a good game. Okay, Brent, let's get to it. So, how old do you think the moon is?
Pretty old.
Like very old? Well, a recent analysis of lunar dirt brought back by the final Apollo mission in 1972 has confirmed today that the moon
is old.
Get this, 4.46 billion years old. It's about 40 million years older than originally thought.
Okay.
4.46 billion years. What were you doing 4.46 billion years ago, Brent?
I don't remember.
That's old. So this place has been around for a while.
Well, you kind of figured that.
I didn't think it was going to be like 4 billion years old. So that means the Earth. Does that mean the Earth's 4.46 billion years old too?
Well, yeah,
has to be, right?
Dinosaurs were like millions of years ago, and
that was millions of years ago, not billions.
Yeah, I know, but that's saying that the dinosaurs and the Earth came around the same time. Earth had to be here before the dinosaurs, so
that's crazy to me. And also crazy to me how it took that long to like analyze these dirt things or whatever. Like, hey, it took us 35, 40, 50 years to analyze this.
They had to wait for technology to catch up.
True. I get that. Disneyland is announcing opening dates for their new Pixar-themed hotel. Now, I might remind you, their last theme hotel, which was the Star Wars theme hotel, completely flopped because it was way too expensive. And nobody could go to it because no one wanted to spend $1,000 a night. And families, you would have to spend triple that. And it just wasn't a great experience. And nobody showed up and nobody went to it. So now they're opening a new Pixar-themed hotel on January 30th, 2024. The Pixar Hotel at Disney's Anaheim location.
So how much is it going to cost to sleep in Andy's room?
Will have inspired themes from famous Pixar movies such as The Incredibles, Toy Story 3, and more. It will also have a restaurant, which will open in the hotel in November. It will serve upscale comfort food, like fried chicken, maple bacon donuts, Cajun shrimp, cheddar biscuits, and more. The menu will be themed, obviously, by Pixar movies. New additions will be Finding Nemo, inspired water play areas, and more. It does not say how much this hotel will cost to stay at, though. But my guess is it's going to cost a lot.
It's going to cost just as much as the moon is old.
$4.46 billion.
It's going to be a lot.
It's going to be a lot.
Nothing
dude.
at Disney's cheap.
Nothing at Disney. Dude, I tried to get tickets to Disneyland last year for Christmas for Aaron and myself. And it's like easily per person like $500. And that's on the low end.
Yeah, see, that's why I haven't gone. I can't afford to go there.
It's ridiculous. And I've been at Disneyland a bunch of times to know that it's great to go to Galaxy's Edge, and I had to experience it and got a lightsaber and everything, but it's people might hate me, but it's a little overrated.
Yeah.
A little bit. If you want to go out and spend a bunch of money, that's well worth it.
Oh, that's where I was when I was a kid. When we went to Florida, I liked Universal Studios more than I liked Disney World.
Yeah. The problem is Disneyland is the only place with Star Wars land. And to me, at Disneyland,
that's all I'd want to
That's all I care about there. That's all I care about. Finally, this is a crazy story. All right. A 1981 DeLorean.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Was found in the back of a barn. Okay. A back of a barn in Wisconsin. You're like, wait a second. What? Here's the crazy part. There was only 1,000 miles on the.
It was less than that.
Less than 1,000 miles.
9 something.
Less than 1,000 miles on this DeLorean, and it's been sitting there in this barn. A 1981 DeLorean, if you don't know, Back to the Future. John would be totally confused right now, but he'd also be checked out. What's a DeLorean from? From Back to the Future. Was found in the back of a barn in Wisconsin and had less than 1,000 miles on it. So where's Marty McFly? Where's he at? How long has he been living here? And what's going on?
Oh, it was endorsement. Okay.
I don't know where that is, Brent.
That's okay. Nobody does. There's nothing in endorsement.
So yeah, that's kind of interesting. A 1981 DeLorean just randomly sitting in a barn.
Dude, I'd check those hidden compartments, man.
Yeah, it's the flux.
If you know, that's not what I'm talking. The inventor of the DeLorean went to like prison for trafficking cocaine.
Oh, whoops.
He had hidden compartments in the DeLorean for trafficking cocaine. So that's like that's the running gag with the DeLorean.
Do you think the flux capacitor is still working or no?
Probably.
Where's Doc? Where's he at? Anybody? We are heading to the top of the fourth inning, game 7, still tied at 1 apiece. between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. Lakers, they're losing to the Nuggets right now. Warriors take on the Suns later. Bradley Beal not playing tonight for the Suns. All right, thanks to everybody for joining us today. Bryce Miller, Mark Zeigler. I guess we have to thank John because he joined us for 90% of the show, actually 85% of the show. But anyway, we'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock, right here on San Diego Sports 760. I'm sure we'll have much more to talk about when the Giants officially hire Bob Melvin. Until then, keep listening right here on San Diego Sports 760.